Okay, how's everybody doing tonight? Good. Let's go and get started. There we go. Tonight we're going to be discussing, first off, in week 6. If you've already watched the podcast already prior to coming, and the chapter goes over arrays, and so reading goes over arrays here. We're going to be going over a couple PDF file actually here on discussion 6arrays.pdf. This arrays.zip has 3 examples of arrays we'll go over, 3 PHP files I'll go over in class. We'll read this file, which goes over, we'll do an in-class exercise of looking at the code to implement file upload within a web page, like uploading pictures, uploading files in a website. And then we'll look at an example here externally and then one I have hosted locally. For the take-home, you've got your homework this week is reading this link here on PHP arrays. There is an exercise after you do the reading here on this document here. You'll read about arrays, and you'll get to a section in the document, 2 sections actually, one with working with indexed arrays, the other working with associate arrays. A challenge I added tonight before class was it has you add in specific colors for the arrays. You can change those colors to something else besides what the tutorial gives you to use for extra credit. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. When you click on this link here where it says read and complete the exercise from the below URL where you see this link. Also, just to make sure, do not download exercises on the website. You want to download any files needed here to your local. And there's going to be 2 sections you'll see, one called working with indexed arrays, one called working with associate arrays. So let me go ahead and click on that real quick to show you what it looks like. It should bring you right to page 23 of this PDF file. And you want to start where it says arrays. It says in this lesson of the PHP tutorial, you'll learn to work with indexed arrays, associate arrays, 2-dimensional arrays, and you'll also learn to work with array manipulation functions. It explains what arrays are, but then as you keep scrolling down, it gets to a couple exercises here. The first one, I want to make sure I got the right one, working with indexed arrays. The second one's working with associate arrays. So here's the first one. Exercise working with indexed arrays. It says it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to finish. So you'll read through that exercise. It gives you what the example should look like when you're done. Anywhere where it tells you open whatever, like on this number here where it says open this for editing, you're finding that file here where it says do not download exercise. When prompted, please download them here. So make sure and download them here where it says that. There's going to be files in there you'll need for your exercise. Then you're going to create an array that holds your favorite colors. Inside of the open and close table tags, you're going to loop through the array one by one for each element and then test it. Then it goes into associate arrays, explains what an associate array is. Keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down. You get to an exercise here in a bit where it talks about working with associate arrays. That one should look like this. And notice in the exercise it has different hexadecimal numbers, and here's a color code for it, the color name for it. You can change that up for extra credit to be different than what the web page is basically on both of them. So this one goes through, it says open up this color2.php file. Do not click on it here or try to find it here. It's not going to be there. Again, you're going to have to, you'll find all the files needed where it says here, right here on the document. Once you're finished, this is what it's going to look like. Let me open it up. You put it all on one page. You can put the first one on the top, the second one on the bottom. Internet starts slow. Close out of that. Yeah, external site's taking forever. I'll go this way, show it to you this way. You guys are probably all hitting it with me. This is what it's going to look like right there. The first one is the first exercise. The second one is the second exercise. The challenge is, and this is exactly what it has you do on the website. You're going to change up the colors from what the website has. Okay, this is exactly what the website tells you to do, by the way, right here. And I want you to change up the colors. It has in the instructions, by the way, has in the instructions, I believe it's the 3 Schools website where it shows you the hexadecimal codes. You guys know what I'm talking about that have done web design. So just find more hexadecimal codes than what's on the page to fill in the first table, which is a single, the second table, multi-dimensional array. As always, I do have the original zip file, source file to help you if you need help, but you should be fine because this file here, I believe, is the same as this file here, if I'm not mistaken, and so it might be just a tad bit different, but you can basically fill in your own colors to just kind of toss it up and make it a little different. So that's PHP arrays, that's your take home. The first thing I want to discuss tonight, though, is the discussion on arrays, which is the top of the in class. So let's go over that real quick. Do I know? On the website? Oh yeah, there's tons of stuff on there. You're only going to read about the array stuff. That's it. Yep, only going to read about arrays. I mean, you can read more, but you only need to read about arrays. So PHP arrays is what we're going to talk about tonight. And if you've had other languages, you might have heard of arrays before, but arrays are the same in PHP as they are in other languages. They provide a way to group many variables together. Up to this point, when you guys declared a variable, you've declared it for one item. So it might be for a value, it might be for a name. Arrays can be referenced and manipulated, as this week we do in the take-home in tables, using a single variable. So use one variable and have multiple values using an array. An array element starts with the number 0, and array elements are used to call each array. So you could have array element 0 being blue, array element 1 being red, array element 2 being purple, array element 3 being black, so on and so forth, in one array, and we could call that array color. The array color 0, array color 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And that would be one name called an index array called color, and we could declare multiple values for that array. So to initialize the array, it's real easy. All you need to do is have the left and right brackets, left and right parentheses, to declare it as a function. And what this does is the array function allows 0 or more elements to be assigned. So here's an example of an array. We're going to create an empty array here, and you'll notice it's called RBC classes equals array. What that's done is it's now made RBC classes an array by that one-line declaration. Because PHP, unlike other languages, does not initialize it by a type. The type is what's to the right of the preprocessor directive, which is the equal sign. And so we have here $RBC classes equals array, so that makes RBC classes an array. Make sense? Just like if I was to put to the right of RBC classes in quotes, Chuck, what would that make RBC classes? But what type would it make it? A string. What if I put number 23 to the right of the preprocessor directive? It'd make it an integer. And so we're now making it an array by doing the array function after the RBC classes. It's an empty array, nothing's in it yet. So say we want to add some values in it. Pretty simple. We just put in the array, between the left and right parentheses, separated by commas and quotes, the array values. The first one there is going to be 0. The second one's going to be 1. The third one's going to be 2. What I mean by that is Web290 is 0, CIS 102 is 1, and PCT 130 is 2. That's the placements of array. And so when we want to call here in a second RBC classes, and when we want to pull CIS 102, what number of array would we pull? 1. Make sense? So we initialize it, we declare it with some values here on this slide. Now let's go and reference it. So we have our declaration, and I put a little note up here. Remember that the index always starts with 0. Always starts with 0. That might be the only thing you make a mistake when you first start playing with arrays, if you've never played with them before. But once you get past that, you're good to go. So here, let's go ahead and reference the first element of an array. We're gonna reference and echo out to the screen the 0 element, which is going to echo out which one of those? Web290. Make sense? Now you'll notice in the referencing of it, RBC classes has brackets, left and right brackets. What's within the brackets is the numeric value of the index of that array that you're wanting to reference. Okay, so we're referencing the 0 index value of the array. This is just a single array. We'll get into multiples here in a second. And you can think of arrays at this point as being multiple or one single column. One single column in this example, and each one of these represents a row. What I mean by that is this. You're familiar with Excel possibly, right? Excel spreadsheet. An example, easy maybe to understand, is I'm going to put in here one cell or one column. We're now dealing right now with a single array. A single array has in it only one column with multiple values, and it's a single array. Make sense? If I wanted multiple arrays, what we'll do in a second, we would have a second column, okay? And we could have even more, third column, and we could do multi-referencing arrays. We'll look at in a second. But just know now, this is called a single reference array, single array, and it's representing like a column and multiple rows. Associative array is useful for assigning meaningful names and can use names to access the arrays. And so instead of accessing it with a number, you can access it with a name with an associative array. So here's an example. You'll notice in the array that we've just used before, we have in here array again, left parentheses, quote, PHP, end quote, equal sign greater than symbol, and then Web290 in quotes. What this is doing now is it's, instead of it being 0, you can now call it by PHP. Instead of it being just 1 for CIS 102, it can be called by Computer Basics. Instead of being called 2 for PCT 130 index, it can now be called security. So referencing associate array with names instead of elements is in place of the number, you put in the name. Make sense? So to call Web290, we just do PHP. To call CS 102, we do Computer Basics. To call PCT 130, we do security. On these, you need to make sure you put quotes around the names and that the spelling is as you declared them to be, syntax-wise as well. It's probably best, I know I have bookcase in here, but it might be easier and simpler to have them all be lowercase for the names, just so you'll remember and won't mess up on a syntax. Okay? Associate arrays example, we looked at one already. Let's look at one in code now. I've got one here on the overhead I want to look at. So let me go ahead and pull one up real quick, and you guys can just look at the code here on the overhead. Okay, we'll look at what we've got so far. We want single, I'll open that one up, and then we'll do associate, we open that one up, and then multiple. So let's start with single first. Okay, so this is the actual code here for it, calling and echoing out to the screen the examples that I want. And if I was to go here to the code, I've actually got that as well up here. I can access that. So give me a second here. Go back to week 6, and let's do the single one first. Web290, CIS 102, PCT 130. Then we'll do Associate, same kick out, but let's look at the code difference here on Associate. Okay, I'm calling, instead of the numeric value of index, I'm calling the name PHP, Computer Basics, and Security, and echoing those out to the screen. The last one we're going to look at is the associate array. It's called multi-dimensional array. It's where each array element is an array itself. So we get a little bit more complicated here. We went from single to multiple, or to associate to multiple. Multiple is where you get into columns and rows. So far we just deal with columns, which would be a single column like on an Excel spreadsheet. With multi-dimensional, you get into column and rows arrays, because every single element is an array in and of itself. It can be thought of as a table. That's why I drew that up on the board. So what you're seeing up on the board is actually representational of a multi-dimensional array. Each element in the parent array represents a row. Each element in the child array will represent a column of the row. So again, each element of the parent array represents a row. Each element of the child array represents the columns of the row. So let's look at some example here. Here's a multi-dimensional array. We have in here RBC classes is the first declaration. Second declaration, RBC classes 0 equals array, and then I have in there a associate array for Web290 and PHP. Second, RBC classes is RBC classes 1 equals array with an associate array. And how do I know this is an associate array that I'm looking at? How do I determine that this is right here an associate array? Right, the equal sign, greater than symbol, in between the two declares it as an associated array. Okay? To the left is the label, to the right is the value of that associate array index. Okay, so the first one, the value is 0. The value 0, the index 0, the value is CS 102. The label, though, is title. The second on this same line here, subject, what's my label here, and what's my value? I just highlighted it. What's my label on this one? Subject is my label, and Computer Basics is the value of this index. Okay? Next one I have RBC classes 2, an array, 2 associate arrays in here, one for PCT 130 and one for network security. Now in order to call these, all I need to do is echo them out to a screen. Notice here I have RBC classes, left and right bracket, the number, a space, left and right bracket again, and then in quotes, what I'm wanting to call out of these. In these I'm just wanting to call title, but I could call subject if I wanted to. Okay, but I'm just calling title in this example. So let me bring up the example there on that one. Let's go back to the multi-dimensional. Okay, I've got here Web290, PHP, Concols instructor. We haven't actually went into this part yet down here. Because we're going to be looping them to actually see it. But if I was to just display, what I have here right now, it would just show to the screen the title portion of this, which would be Web290, CS 102, and PCT 130 would show up, and that's it, because that's what I'm referencing. Each one of these I could reference, subject, which I'm not, but I could, but this is just an example of how you can reference within a multi-dimensional array different parts of that multi-dimensional array. So you could look at each one of these arrays, 0, 1, and 2, as being columns. The title would be a column, subject would be a column. Make sense? And then the values underneath those you can pull from. And the nice thing about having an associative array is it's a name. You can remember a name. Sometimes you can't remember a number. You can always remember a name more than likely when you're wanting to declare and to pull it up and to bring it into closer proximity of what you need. So let's look at the actual code here before we look at it on the on Text Wrangler. So the first part of this code, you'll notice there's our RBC classes array. What does that line do right there to RBC classes? RBC classes equals array. What does that do? Remember? Right, it defines RBC classes as an array, correct? The next three lines takes it and adds dimensions to it, a multi-dimensional dimension. Now, we just put 3 in here, but you could go on and on this. Okay, you could go on and on and on. And also, by the way, you're probably thinking, could you go beyond what I did here? Could you go beyond subject? Yeah, you could keep going. And so you can see where that can be pretty hairy array because you could literally have 10 columns on each one of these, 0, 1, and 2, and be able to call each one of those at your reference, or what you need it to call. But what's powerful about this, what we're getting ready to do, which is looping through arrays to populate it in a table dynamically. That's where the power of arrays come in. And so you're familiar with this first line here, which is a table, basic table command for creation of a table with 1 pixel border. We have our rows and our headers. We're going to have song 1 and 2 and 3. And starting now a PHP for each loop. Let's look at this here. It's going to, in this for each loop, it's going to loop through RBC classes as RBC class. Now, up to this point, do we see RBC class anywhere? We see RBC classes, all right, and it's a what? What is it? An array, a multi-dimensional array, right? This is just an object right now, is all it is. It's an object. It doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm calling it RBC classes. So for each RBC classes as RBC classes, what that's going to do is it's declaring this as an object. It's going to loop through it, and for each RBC class as an item, this here is going to actually now declare each object of the array and put it into the value item, into the variable item. Let's keep going down. So here we have a for each loop. We're looping through for each, it's a nested for each loop, looping through a row basically, one by one, and it's going to echo out in that for each loop that item, first item, second item, third item, fourth item, which will be a column, fourth item, fifth item, sixth item, seventh item, eighth item, ninth item, to however many it needs to fill up that table. And let me go back to the example here. So here's the actual code here. Okay, there's my array. There's my table border. I have title, subject, instructor. Then I'm going into an echo out to the screen displaying using loops. I'm doing a for each RBC classes as RBC classes. Now this is where it gets tricky right here, because right here's a BR tag, okay? And what are these tags in tables? TRs. Rows. What are TDs? What is it? Yeah, it's the actual data that we're putting in there in the rows, and it's going to kick it out. If I kick on back down here further, this bottom part's going to be uglier, by the way, you'll see in a second. This echo statement here is just going to be a whole bunch of gibberish, you'll see. But let's look at the power of this line here, these lines of code. I just want to highlight it, and then we're going to look at it, and we're going to look at it. So I just want to highlight this amount of code right here. Okay? What this is doing is it's displaying the loop, and let me get a stick here and see if I can point out what I'm talking about a little better. Because this is, if you just get this, left bracket, right bracket, okay, on my first for each, okay? Then my next for each, left bracket, right bracket, okay? So I'm going to be looping in columns and rows one by one as they come out, and the results, let me show you real quick. Let's switch over to the example. Is this right here. So we have here for the first title, subject, instructor. Remember that was created in this area right here. 3 THs, okay? Gave me that as a TR, a row, one row, title, subject, and instructor, right? There it is, title, subject, instructor. The next is Web290 PHP Concal. Web290 PHP Concal. It's going to basically, this section right here is what's going to be populated in that row. This section right here is column. This section here is the row, the data in the row. Okay? So we're going to have in there on the second loop, we're going to have, or second time through, it's going to fill in after title, subject, instructor. It's then going to go to Web290 PHP Concal, CS102 Computer Basics Concal, then PCT130 Network Security Concal. This bottom part is uglier because it's not wrapped in a table, but it does kick the data out in an echo command. But this is basically taking the multi-dimensional array and plugging it into a table with a for each loop. And the only thing you need to remember out of for each loop, it's not real difficult. And if you get more nested than what we have here, it would be. But this is a really easy beginning for each loop right there. The first for each loop, again, is dealing with, just like the first one there at the top on line 14, is the first row, title, subject, and instructor, and putting in the headers of those columns with the TH command. And it's with the TH command, it's going to bold them, which it does, right? And then we go here. Here's my beginning TR tag, my beginning ending TR tag. Instead of using a TH, we're using a TD, which is a description for the row, data for the row cell. And it's going to kick it out one by one within that array, and then keep looping till it's done on a for each loop. It'll finish it when it's finally at the last one, which is going to be at RBC classes 2, which should be PCT130, Network Security, Instructor Concal. Okay? And so with the array, using this example over here, just have that right there. Because this part up here is my header, I believe. And I want my detailed information to be in the rows, in the cells of the rows. And so your first for loop is going to be dealing with each one of these one by one, hitting it. This is going to be 0, this is going to be 1, this is going to be 2 within the nested for. Okay? And so the top for each is the object for the actual array itself, which in this case would be RBC classes 0, then RBC classes 1, then RBC classes 2. The array within each one of those is looped here, populating it with the data on each one of the rows. Okay? So first loop comes in here, hits it. Okay, we're now in RBC classes 0. It says, okay, for each class is RBC class, which is this one right here. Okay, RBC class, which is RBC class 0. It's going to loop each item, which is going to be the content of 0 right here. It's going to be content of 0. So how many times are we going to loop here in the very first loop? How many times? How many commas do we have there? How many columns do we have here? 3. So we have title, Web290, subject, PHP, instructor, concal. So if we look at the code again, or look at the display, Web290, PHP, concal. Web290, PHP, concal. All right? Now, when it's displaying these items, it's using the index of that item. So the first index is Web290, second PHP, third concal. So we have, actually be like this, 0, 1, 2. And that would be for the 0 index, okay, for RBC classes 0. That's the very first 0 loop here. Then we go down here, go back up, it does another for each, gets the next object, which is 1, and then how many times we're going to loop in 1? 2, 3. We're going to loop it with 0, 1, and 2 over here. 0, 1, and 2. Now we're finished with these two. 0 and 1's done. Now it comes back down here. Comes back down here after it finishes up this for each loop. And it's echoing them out. It's done. Just go 0, 1, 2. Oops, done. Come back up. Goes to the last one, which is RBC classes 2. Finds again 3 arrays in there. 0, 1, 2. Then it ends. And should have all this data up here now, completed in the table. Now notice at the end here, we have here an NTR tag, already done each time. But notice all we need to end is after the PHP end tag is a table end PHP or end table tag. And then down here, I'm just echoing out in an echo line each one of these arrays separately, okay, concatenating them together with the dot operator. What this is doing right here, it's stringing and concatenating together those arrays. So RBC 0 title is what value? RBC 0 title, you guys have it up in front of you. RBC 0 title is Web290, right? Okay. Then RBC, you guys can tell me RBC 0 subject is what? On the first row. Okay. And then instructor, concal, right? Right? Okay. So I'm literally physically calling all of these separately, 0, 0, 0, because notice on the text here, it's RBC 0, and I'm going to call it by index name, remember, title, subject, instructor, and that's how I'm calling it here. It's index 0, title, subject, instructor is going to give me that very first row. Yes?
Using the loops, do you control how many items are displayed? Like if you only want to display the first 2 rows, do you control that?
Yeah, you could. You could put a counter in there and to do it that way. You can limit it with a counter. So after it reaches this count, it stops and goes on to the next. Do I know? Yes, it is. Much different than a while. And you'd want to use a for each loop when you're dealing with arrays because of the nested value, of the nested power of a for each. A while will do it while something is true, while an argument is true. A for each does for every object in that array or in this loop, it's going to give us content. When it's done with those objects, it's done. With a while means while something's true, while a value's less than 100, while while the user keeps hitting the Y key on the keyboard, Something like that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you. What about, what would happen if instead of calling title, subject, structure,
Mhm.
I put in Web290? Even if by accident.
It wouldn't.
What would happen?
It would blow up. It wouldn't know what to do. It would give you an error. It would give you an error. You just wouldn't know what to do with it. In fact, what it would probably do if you put like Web290 instead of title, yeah, it just wouldn't know what to do with it. It wouldn't know what to do with that information. So good question though. Yep. Any other questions so far? Now arrays, we went from single, we went from associate to multidimensional. And on the multidimensional, as you can see when you're using a for each loop or for next loop, you can really fill up a table easily and quickly with an array. Arrays, as you'll keep using web developing and PHP and SQL, arrays can be populated from data as well. So not right now we're just hard coding everything and they're showing you how it works so you can learn it. But normally on a website, when we're using structure array, we're actually pulling in, say for instance, I have an array called customer. And in that customer array, I want to query a database that has 1 million records, as an example. And in that array, I want to query first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, email, and that's it. It might have let's say it has, for each record, you have the capability of 120 fields in each record. I only want to query 10 of those fields in each record. So I create an array with 10 areas, 10 multi-dimensional areas, and then I can bring my data in, and you'll learn how to do this in a couple weeks, and explode the data using a MySQL explode array command, and basically you take that and populate a table with it. In fact, we've already used that, I believe, in week 2 or 3 when we did the guest book. The guest book, if you look at the code on the guest book, it uses an explode array for MySQL that explodes the content of that query into a table. And then you have the contents of that populated into a table, and it's a real simple table, and it just populates it with a for each loop. And so we've already covered it. We didn't go into detail because I didn't want to go into arrays in week 2, but it was already used there in week 2, what I'm talking about with databases. And so this week, though, you can also use arrays for such things as laying out data in a data grid, like a table, from a database. That would be one usage. The other usage is, say you are collecting data. As the user types it in, you can also collect data and import it into an array and store it in an array. And at the end of that result, the data of that array can then be stored into a database. That can be done as well with arrays. Yes?
Is that kind of how a post would work? Like if you're working with WordPress, when you submit an actual post, would the data be sent into an array? Or?
Yeah, well, sometimes it'd be field to field, meaning, say you're filling out like in WordPress, they have one text box to type in your article, and then maybe bringing in a picture or whatever, formatting. In that case, more than likely, it's just taking, when you update a WordPress module, it's just taking that one field, which in this case is a text box, basically, and updating one field in a record with that new article, if that makes sense. An example of arrays would probably be more like, here's an example, uploading multiple pictures on a website. Say you have 10 pictures you're uploading. We've all done this before on multiple different sites. And you're like, I wonder what it does. How does it keep everything in line on updating and queuing that? Say if I select 100 pictures and I upload them, you can actually see the progress, 1 picture, then 2 pictures. What it does is, in the code, you can put in all those pictures into an array, and then as the server can handle it, it connects to the next one, and then connects to the next one, and then connects to the next one until the processes are complete. Does that make sense? And so arrays are used, and we're getting ready to do an upload one here in just a second. Arrays are used for uploading. Arrays are used for file processing of data. So say, for instance, here's an example of a batch processing. Say a bank, better yet, a credit card machine. Anybody worked in business where you had to like batch out at the end of the night a credit card machine, or register or something, and tallying all the totals of the day? Well, whatever application they're using, whether it be a Windows app, a web app, whatever, it's tallying as this system goes on, or as the day goes on, it's keeping that data stored somewhere. And the most logical place to store it will be an array, because arrays are very powerful, they don't take up a lot of memory, and they're very flexible, like we've seen here. You can do a lot of stuff with it. You can limit it, as you mentioned, by doing different counts and limiting the count of what you want. You can limit an array by querying an array once it's been created. So say at the end of the day you've been working 8 hours, you've had a whole bunch of sales, hopefully, you've done a great day. And through the day, generally most online systems that keep track of sales will periodically save data just to make sure that stuff doesn't crash. It has a backup. We'll say you have an hour's worth of data that's not been saved. That data can be saved in an array. Every hour could be an array. Every hour, within the hour, this is the content of this array for between 7 and 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9 o'clock, whatever. I'm just giving an example of how you could create a program to every hour that program would create an array. The hour would be the array, and then within that hour, it would store data, whatever data it is that program uses, which in this case would be sales, so it could be the item, the cost, the gross sales and net sales, the clerk that rang it up, the credit card information, the batch information, check information, cash information, a whole bunch of different things could be in that array, depending on, the program. So online ticket sales use arrays a lot during the transaction. Online pizza is an example. You ever order pizza online? And you're going through each, like Papa John's is a real good example, because you build it as you're going, and you go from one screen to the other and store stuff. And you don't have to be signed in to do it. You're just storing stuff as you go page to page. Well, we've already learned about sessions. You can actually take arrays and bring them using sessions from page to page. So not just a variable like first name, last name, like we've done so far in sessions, but you could actually use sessions to bring arrays from one page to the other. So like Papa John's, you select your first pizza. The next thing it asks you to do is add toppings. Boom, boom, you add your toppings, go to the next pizza. Okay, it's storing that first pizza in one session array, one multi-dimensional session array. Eat pizza 0. Pizza 0 has 20 columns. You put 20 toppings on it. Make sense? Pizza 2 has 5 columns, because you only put 5 toppings on it. Then at the end of the transaction, it takes that information and then dumps it into the system. If you cancel it, it's just an array. It's not any critical data. Does that make sense? And so arrays are used for non-critical data during the time of a session, that if the user was to close the browser out, or if they were to cancel out, there's nothing real vital in that session, or security-wise. Does that make sense? Like, for instance, you go to Amazon. You search on Amazon for an hour for a book, right? You're searching, and you keep adding stuff to a cart. You've not signed in yet. You're just adding stuff to a cart. What's so good about that? That's great, because you've not signed in yet. If you walk away or you shut your browser down, it doesn't have your credit card information. It doesn't have your, banking information. They're using an array in sessions to do all that. In fact, I know a kid that works at Fat Wallet, and they've built a new service in PHP that basically what it does is you can go to any website, right, with this service and add items to Fat Wallet's account, to a temporary account using temporary arrays. And at the end of the session, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to buy this from Sears, this from JCPenney's, this from the mall, this from over here, this from over there? It'll actually collate all that information into one transaction using arrays and using a Windows clipboard to do all of that with arrays. And if you end that session, it stores it in a cookie. Because again, it's not critical data. We learned about cookies last week. So it stores it in a cookie. You come back tomorrow to that same web page. You've not logged in yet, but guess what? It remembers everything you just did because it's stored not only the data, because how many cookies could you store in a website? You remember? We said this last week. 20. That's not a lot, right? But let me ask you this. What's the limit to how many arrays I can put in a let's say we had five multi-dimensional arrays. What's the limit to that? It's unlimited. It's unlimited. I could add multiple columns if I want to. I could do array 0, 1 million columns if I wanted to. And that would be one cookie. Now you are limited in cookies by size, but guess what? All they're saving is URL pointers. And a lot of times those URL pointers they're saving are bit.ly down. If you've ever heard of bit.ly before, bit.ly.com, bitly.com. It takes a long URL and makes it short. And so instead of having a URL from a transaction this long, from a site you wanted something, it bit.lys it down to 5 or 6 characters. And then that's stored in an array. And then all of that transaction is stored into one cookie. And say it lives on your computer for 30 days. No bad, no harm, no bad, no foul. But it's convenient because when you come back, you've got that same transactions saved in your little, what's it called? Somebody help me. On an online transaction. Brain dead? Thank you. Shopping. It's in that shopping cart, right? And you can see it in there. Oh, I've got 10 items. Well, I thought I closed my browser out yesterday. Oh, that's pretty cool. I don't have to go back and remember them now. There you go. That's how they get people hooked. That's the whole reason for shopping carts, by the way, is for that very reason. Because we have all done this, right? We've went on the website, we've added stuff to the shopping cart, shut the browser out accidentally or on purpose, came back, shopping cart's gone, have to start all over again. Well, what we're talking about tonight with the power of arrays, associative arrays, and cookies, you can store that as long as we want to on a website. And with an associative array, you can store, and I talked to, I think it was Doug earlier tonight on this, on cookies that we used last week. Most web developers use it to store data like this. PC manufacturer, browser type that you're on, IP address that you're on. Because you can go to a website called Whois, just type in Whois in Google, and they'll bring up the first link will be a Whois website that basically you type in an IP address. And in that IP address, it'll tell you the location of that IP address, the ISP that owns it. If it's a website, it'll tell you the owner of that website and how long it's been up, contact information, address information, phone number, email. So you can see where this is going for companies with just a website, with just a URL, which is an IP address. So you have Comcast, you're in Rockford, you have whatever and you're in LA, you have whatever and you're in New York, but we're all visiting the same website with these cookies, collecting these cookies and saving them in an array format on your hard drives. Every time you come back to the computer, your stuff's there, which is convenient, right? But where the power really comes in for developers is they can see and collect data from the cookies you've stored. So every time you go to their website, yes, you're storing data locally, but guess what? They could also be storing a log file of that data on their server easily, and they do. That's how Google Analytics works, okay? I can set up a Google Analytics site on any website, and it basically tells me within minutes, if you guys were to hit the site, I could see who's on, what page you're on, how long you were on that page, what links you clicked on, what browser you're on, what IP address you have, even to the detail of apps that you're running at the time if I wanted to. I could see that as well. So a bit of information that from a web developing standpoint is going to help you out a lot understanding that. But really what I want you to get out tonight out of anything, because I've said a lot of stuff about cookies and stuff, is that cookies and arrays, using last week and this week together, which we don't always do, but using cookies and arrays together is a very powerful recipe for developers to use. Yeah.
When you go to sites like LinkedIn or
Right.
you who visited,
Yes.
who looked at your profile?
Yeah.
Is that all cookies? No.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, they are using, well, more than likely on that side of it, they wouldn't have to use cookies, because if I'm on LinkedIn and you're on LinkedIn, right, and I come and look at your profile, LinkedIn knows who I am and they have my information. And when I click on your link to look at your profile, they store that. They store that link that I clicked on as data. So it's not really a cookie, if that makes sense. But it is something they're storing. It is something they're aggregating. It is something they're collating, and that could be stored in an array before it saves it to that database file. Because, yeah, you're right. If you have LinkedIn, you can see who's looked at your profile, right? If your boss is looking at your profile, that might be a red flag. You know, why are they looking at my profile for? They want me to get another job or something, or what? But, you know, that's the same deal. It's you're using arrays to determine what activity you've done on LinkedIn, and then they're saving that information probably to a database. And then when you log in next time, you see, oh, Professor Conker's been looking at my profile. And so that's all done by just database stuff, database and sessions probably. But where cookies are used in LinkedIn, more likely is going to be such things like what type of browsers visit LinkedIn. Okay, and the reason why is that important? Okay, if I'm spending $1 million a year in development of websites, which LinkedIn does easily, paying developers to do their developing, right? If I'm paying $1 million or close to that for developing, I want to make sure, I want to be darn sure what I'm developing is reaching the audience that's hitting my sites. And let's say that audience is creeped up from being desktop, laptop to, say, mobile. So now they're on iPads, iPhones, Droids, whatever, right? Is that going to shift your workload? Is that going to shift what type of websites you're going to build? Definitely. You better be building some mobile sites. You better be building some mobile apps. You better be focusing on that. And so that's the whole reason for cookies, is to not only have convenience for the user on what you've done before, so when you come back and have to redo it again each time. Like I know LinkedIn and some other websites do this. They will store, if you tell them to, the first time, there's a little checkbox that says Save Preferences on all the websites. And what it's doing is saving your preference for your username, but not your password. That way when you come back a week later, your username pops in, but your password's not saved, thank God. But your username is on a cookie. That way you can, you know, when it pops in, you just have to basically type in your password to get in. So a lot of sites do that, but you'll never see that on a banking site, but you might see it on LinkedIn. But I think LinkedIn had a hack about 6 months ago, or more possibly, where they had some issues of data being stolen. So they might have taken that feature away, I believe, because they had everybody go in and rechange their password to something more difficult. So, but I'm trying to think of an example. Gmail's another. Gmail's an example where a lot of you maybe even with Eagle. Eagle's an example. If you use Eagle a lot at home, which you probably do because you love the class and you're on it all the time, is every time you go back to that web browser, if you've saved it in that web browser, Eagle's going to remember that, and all you have to hit is submit when you come in to the site, and you're in. You don't have to type in username and password. Firefox allows you to do that. Chrome allows you to do that. What was that again? Yeah, it's a cookies thing, yeah. And so you are saying to the cookie, yes, I give you rights. And it usually prompts you and says, do you want to store this information? Yeah, well, if it's my laptop and I'm keeping it with me, yeah, I probably do. Now, if I'm on your laptop or I'm on the school's computer, I'm not going to do that. But that's a nice reason why we have deep freeze on these computers, because I don't know how many times I've come around, I know you guys don't do this, to students after they've left the class, and like, oh, great, they're logged into Facebook, they're logged into Eagle, they're logged into, and so they forget to log out. So Facebook changed their structure, though, recently to where they will allow cookies to be stored, but everything's HTTPS now on Facebook. It's a secure protocol, and it will not allow them to anyone to store password on a local client unless you give it rights, and you have to go through like 2 or 3 screens to do this with Facebook now, but it will allow you after like 2 or 3 screens to save it, because they're really trying to get people not to do that, because again, in public areas, people log in once and click that's in there. But arrays are very powerful. Arrays are something that you're not going to wrap your head around the first night, I know, especially for some of you the very first night exposed to it. But if you can just get this tonight, I try to tell this on everything we're teaching in here. If you can just understand that arrays, single arrays is one column, multi-dimensional arrays, multiple columns and rows, and the power of arrays in PHP is taking that multi-dimensional array and being able to put it into a data grid or into a database or whatever, okay? Now let's jump and go to the next one, uploading a file. How many has uploaded a file recently to any website in the last 2 weeks? We've done it to ours, right? So we have one right with an eagle, right? Hopefully you have anyway. So let's look at file upload real quick. In fact, let me see how much battery I have here. Oh, whoa, I better plug in there. Be in trouble. While I'm getting my plug-in plugged in, there is a document that we're going to look at right below the one we just went over on arrays in the in-class lab at the top on file uploads. So go ahead and click on that. It's a PDF file, I believe. We're going to be looking at that next. And we're going to be putting together a 2-file application. One is going to be just a regular index.php file to upload, select a file to upload. The other one's going to be an upload file to process and upload to your computer. Okay. So let's go to that document. Yeah. Might be best if I just go to it if it's dirt slow for you guys. All right, so 225, and then we're going to go to week 6. Wrong one. 220, 290. 290, week 6. And it's the link that says number 2, read PHP file upload.pdf. That one there. I think I've already got mine open here. There it is. So it look like that. Let's look at this first. So a very useful thing to do is upload files in a web server, and give me some reasons of why, before we get into why it's dangerous, let's get into some useful reasons of why you'd want somebody to upload a file to your web server. What's the purpose of that, you think? Give me some website examples of that. What was that again? Sharing photos. Excellent, right? That's the number one reason probably. Can you think of other reasons you'd want folks to upload to your website? Or maybe even yourself as an administrator upload to a website. What are some things there you could do? What was that? Updating data. Anything else? So we have updating websites with photos, updating data as an administrator with file uploads. Anything else you can think of? Documents, yeah. So like Google Docs, right? Google Docs allows you to upload documents, Dropbox.com. Another service I've just started playing with, you guys might look into, it's totally free, Outlook.com. You might have already got tons of emails on this already. But Outlook.com is looking to take over Google, Gmail, and trash it. I don't know if you've seen the commercials. Google is very dangerous. They invade your privacy and give you all these ads. Really? They do? Yes. Wow. You need to get Outlook.com and go there. And then they get this real flashy thing. But, and you know, whatever. Yeah, Microsoft's buying it. Yes, it's Outlook.com. Yeah, they're pushing it. It's a big campaign, huge. They're spending millions of dollars on this. And I logged into it, and what's cool about it is this. It is kind of cool, this feature is, and I'm sure Gmail's not happy about it. You can log in with your Gmail account at Outlook.com, and they say, hey, we'll let you use your Gmail. And not only that, don't just log in with it, but we'll let you even send from Outlook.com, not just receive your Gmail account, but send your Gmail from Outlook.com. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to also give you some file storage that Microsoft gives us now called Skydrive, you might have heard of, that lets you store files, and it is really slick, by the way. I did play with this last week. No, you don't have to pay for it now. 5 gigs free. And within Skydrive, you can create, without owning the application, you can create Microsoft Word apps, PowerPoint documents, Excel documents, and I can share it amongst each other. What are they targeting there with Google? Google Docs and Google Drive, right? Yeah. And is it slick? It is. If you get a chance to play with it, go home and play with it. Don't play with it tonight, but Outlook.com, you want to go in there and look at it because they're spending millions of dollars on not only advertisement, but beefing up the service to make it really competition to Google. Yeah.
It looks like Microsoft's trying to really make a comeback lately.
Oh, they are.
Their new browser.
Yes.
They're saying, it's still bad, but it's getting better.
Yeah, and the other thing I just recently found out was that the competition for anybody, they made it really easy to learn how to do this, by the way. For any developer that wants to learn how to develop a Windows 8 app, they made it like step by step, like 1, 2, 3 type of thing. This is how you do it. But then there's a competition out that when you submit an app, doesn't matter what, it has to be a free app, submit a free app, because you get a developer license for free at Microsoft. You develop the app, which the application they give you to develop it on is free, Visual Studio, which I teach that as well. But students can create Windows 8, the web apps, basically, kind of like Apple has on the App Store and Droids have on their marketplace. Anyway, when you submit an app, a free app, you get a free Halo. I think it's Halo. Is it Halo, the new Microsoft game? I can't remember. Halo, I can't remember. I'm not a gamer, but it's a number. The guy was telling me about today. It's the number one on-demand or number one demanded game out right now. If you do what I just said, which doesn't cost anything to do it, you get a free one of these games. It's like a $250 value, something like that. So they're really beefing up. They're beefing up the ads. They're beefing up the services. And I looked at it today. I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's actually not too shabby. Because I've used Google Docs. Don't much like Google Docs too much. Not that I haven't used it and been productive with it, but it's just been kind of clunky. This one's really slick because everybody's used to Microsoft Word, everybody's used to PowerPoint, everybody's used to Excel, right? And it lets you create those on the fly without having those programs. So for students, you've got 5 gigs of space. You can create all your papers in this Skydrive at no cost. You don't have to buy $299 or $99 Microsoft Office. You can just do it all within Skydrive. And within Skydrive, once you're finished with it, you can email it, guess what? Using their new Outlook.com email. And you can also, even though you sign in with Gmail, you can also set up a free alias email address that ends in @Outlook.com. So it can be steve@Outlook.com, okay, which you can check, by the way, your Gmail account with this Outlook.com alias, and you can send people emails with your Outlook.com, but it's really using Gmail to do it. Yeah.
You're talking about how Microsoft's helping people develop their apps.
Yes.
Google has something similar.
Oh, they got something now?
They've got, if you go to developers.google.com, right now I'm on /academy, and they
What are they giving away?
teach you how to build a Drive app. They I haven't gotten much into it, but they have their app engine. They have
So everything's free, basically, to do it. All the tutorials to take for free, right, to learn it, which I'm totally for all of that. I think that's good. The competition that Microsoft's bringing is great for developers, for you guys, for students. I think it's wonderful because it's free, number one, take advantage of it. Because Microsoft's always been good about that, about offering to students free development software. Because I teach 180 every semester, and the software that I teach on, the professional software, is about $1,200. You guys get it for free as a student. They literally give it to you for free, totally nothing, zero. No other company does that. Adobe doesn't do that. With you guys have done web stuff. That you can get discounts with Adobe, but I think the cheapest package for student on the high-end creative suite's like $199 or something, $189, which isn't bad, but still not free. Yeah.
on a slightly separate note, sorry.
No, that's fine.
What's your view if you've heard of Google Wallet? Like you can store your credit card
I have heard of that, and the Apple has the same thing. They have Apple Wallet as well now. It's the same concept. I personally not used it. I have heard positive reviews of both, though. I've heard it is secure, which doesn't surprise me. But I think it's just the nature of it or the timing of it. I don't think people are quite ready yet to do that, even though it is. I think it is a secure way to do it with identity theft and everything going around. Flashing your credit card around versus having a digital wallet to use, I think is a smart thing probably. But with everybody fearful of identity theft, which you definitely should be, I'd say that probably will catch on in I'm thinking within 5 years. We'll see in 5 years it'll be big. But I have heard good things about it on both the Google side and the Apple side, both. Because on my iPhone I have an app called was it Apple Wallet or something like that, where you can store all your credit cards and gift cards, and if you're doing an airline, you're taking a flight, you can store all that stuff in there. And so, but yeah, they're getting there. But the power of what we're talking about before we got into that was uploading files to a web server. So let's get into that. So we've talked about positive things about it, right? We're uploading pictures, managing stuff. But there's also a can of worms when it comes to uploading stuff, because when you enable uploads in a web server, you are opening yourself up to some amount of danger, okay? Because a couple things is, when you do allow uploads, you need to make sure and limit the upload type, file type. So if it's a picture site, they shouldn't be able to upload executables. They shouldn't be able to upload zip files. They shouldn't be able to upload whatever they want to. It's got to be uploaded a JPEG, a PNG, a GIF file, something like that. That makes sense, right? So you can limit that with this script that we're going to go over in a second. So before, though, you can use PHP to manage your uploads, you must first build a wrapper HTML, which is just a basic form using basic buttons and text boxes in HTML to do it. We're going to use here, it's called a form and caption type, multiplayer or multi-part form data. We're going to, action is going to go to uploader.php, and it's a method post. So the only thing different in this whole form is this part right here, this encapsulated type. It's a multi-part form data. What that means is you need that in order to upload. You need that multi-caption form data to upload to the form, or from this form. Because this form is going to go to another PHP file to upload. Input type is hidden. The max value size, file size, here is going to be 10 megs. And you can choose to upload, it says choose to upload, and then the input name they're calling it here is upload file. The type is a file. The input type, submit button, and the value is upload file. So here's a brief description of all the code here. The first is the encapsulated type multi-form data. This is necessary to be created PHP file to be created properly. The action is the uploader.php file, which is the name of the PHP page that will be created shortly. The method is post. It informs the browser we're going to send some information to the server using post, which you've done this already. The input type hidden is here used to set the maximum allowable file size in bytes that can be uploaded. This one here is 100 KB. I said 10 megs, but it's 100 KB is what this example is here, which is a very small file size. But you can up that value by adding more zeros to it. And then the upload file in the input name is the actual file that's going to be going over to the PHP script. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like in real time. And then we're going to, well, let me do mine first. And I'm going to have you guys download like a picture file from the net, from the web. But let me do mine first and show you here what it looks like. Okay, so here's the page. Okay, pretty simple. Choose file and an upload file. So I'm going to go out here and choose a file. I'm going to go to my downloads area on my computer and choose a file that's, I've upped mine a little bit from what the script is there, so I have a little bit more space. So I'm not going to do a big one though. Let's do like a meg file. we'll do this PowerPoint file here. This getting the shot.ppt. No, let me do another one. I think I might have done that one earlier when I was playing with it. Let me do this PDF file here. So I'm going to upload this PDF file right here. So I'm going to attempt to upload. So I'm going to click open. You'll notice it grabs that file in the page. It says, okay, you've grabbed this file. Now go ahead and choose to upload it. Notice it says upload it. Okay. Now I'm doing this, you'll notice from my local host here. So let me show you here where it's storing it at, and then we're going to look at the code. I actually store it in a uploads folder called uploads, and there's a PDF file I just uploaded just now into that uploads folder. Okay? And so let's look at the code real quick, and you can just look at mine here at the overhead, it's fine. Let's open up my code for that one. Upload example. Now here's mine. Here's my structure. I wanted to show you that. Because this zip file is up there for you to play with when you get home, but when you download that zip file, it downloads it just like this. You have an index.html, an uploader.php, and an uploads folder. Okay? The uploads folder, the only thing you need to make sure locally when you're testing this, you should be fine on a Windows machine, but on Macs you have to give rights to it sometimes, is make sure that this folder has read-write access to all users. But since the advent of like Windows XP Service Pack 2, I believe you guys are okay. You don't have to do anything. Just create the folder called Uploads. In fact, it'll be created when you download this zip file. But that's where all the pictures are going to go to, is in the Uploads folder. Okay? If you're doing this externally on a site, like 00 Web Host, you do have to give that folder on 00 Web Host read-write access through the directory structure on 00 Web Host. And so you know on 00 Web Host where you guys can go to the file manager, has a little folder. Well, one of the area, and all web hosts have this if you're using another web host or you're playing with another web host. All web hosts have a security feature for files where you can give file folders certain security rights and access, like open them up for people to get into and to write stuff to. So if you're doing this externally, that's the only thing you need to make sure that it has read-write access. Then the index.html is the wrapper that the form's in that has the button to go to upload and the button to upload it. Okay, the browse button and the upload button. The uploader.php is the file needed to actually do the deed. So let's go ahead and open that up. So here is my PHP file. I want to go to my index one first. There it is. You'll notice I upped my zeros a little bit. I think the one on the overhead prior might have been that, I believe. But I believe that's about 10 megs right there is what we have available for us. In bytes, it's 10 megs. So this would be, let's see, 3, 6. So this is 100 million bytes is 10 megs. 100 million bytes is 10 megs. So I've set my max value, and then on when it sends over to the uploader.php file, it's a very basic file, and I want to go over it real quick, line by line. The first line is a target path. That's the path where the files are going to be stored. Okay? In this case, I have a folder called uploads. That's my path. The next line where it says target path equals target path dot base name, and then files, upload file name, name. What this is doing is it's grabbing from that file you just sent over with the post command, and it's adding to it the file name and the file extension, okay, the base name of it. And it's plugging it into the target path. So we have target path, which would be uploads. The line 4 is uploads dot, and what's the dot do? We already talked about this earlier. Yeah, it concatenates the string together. Dot base name, okay, which is the base name of the file, the uploaded file, and then the name. And what that means is the separated upload file and name. If you look back here, let's go back to the index page. Notice the upload file right here. Okay? It's going to grab it, and file is a type, which in this case I uploaded what? A PDF file. Is that correct? Uploaded a PDF file type, and then here is the actual upload file name that it grabs. So let's go back. All right, so I've got my type PDF. Now I'm going to do an if statement. It says if move uploaded file, the uploaded file name, it creates a temp name just for a structure to target path. And basically what this whole line's doing here is it's grabbing it from the local with that move upload files function. It's grabbing it from the local PC or Mac, and it's actually uploading it here with this one command, this move upload files. It's uploading it with this one command. If it becomes true, it says here, it echoes out the file, whatever the name is with the extension, has been uploaded. It's going to be echoed out, okay, if that line's true. If it's false, it's going to say there's an error, and it can be false for a number of reasons. You've exceeded the size, you've exceeded, or you've not had the right file type, possibly, or the wrong file type. So a number of reasons why it wouldn't work. And so once it uploads correctly, you then are able to use that file, however it is you need to use it in that program. And in this case here, I just got it stored here in the uploads, and it could be a picture site, it could be whatever. Let me go ahead and do another one real quick. I'll go ahead and do a under 10 meg one here. Here's a document. Upload that. Go to my uploads folder, and there's a document I just uploaded. Okay? And so uploads are very simple, but also can be very dangerous. I do have, I'm not going to go over it in class tonight, but I do have another podcast on how to limit the type of files that people upload. And you do need to add some more code into that to do that. I'm going to put that up there tonight when I get home and upload that to this week for you guys to look at. But basically how to limit the files type, like say you just wanted picture files like .gif, .jpeg, and maybe .png and nothing else. Show you how to do that. But this is a really simple exercise, a really simple way to upload files. And you would definitely want to limit those file types and definitely want to limit the file size. But beyond that, that's about all you need to worry about. Because one thing that you don't want to do is just allow, like this one is allowing anything in. There's no real filter here. If a person was to upload, say a hacker was to upload an executable file into this upload folder, and they knew how to get to that upload folder, they knew exactly where it was stored, by quickly just searching and seeing if they could figure out what folder it was I stored it in, they could then click on that executable from a URL and maybe cause some damage to that web server, okay? Or do an injection with that, maybe upload a PHP file or upload a SQL file and do an injection that would cause some damage. And so uploading, fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It's great to do in development, and there are some free sites or free files I do recommend for management. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And I have not used this one in a while, but it's a pretty powerful PHP file that you can use to manage your site remotely with one file. There it is right there. I'll blow it up for you. And you guys can jot it down. This is a really good, and it is secure. What's cool about this site, about this page, I don't know if you guys have seen this or not or heard about it, but it's called File Thingy. And it's a one file PHP that you download to your web server or you upload to your external site that you guys have. And with this one file PHP, it allows you to upload multiple files at once, so you don't need to do PHP or FTP. You can actually use this and manage your site with this one file. You put it in the root of your website, basically. It has a password protection function in it. You have to read the documentation on it. But you can add users to it. You can create directories, subdirectories, rename, move, delete, copy, search for files, control access to files, or blacklist and whitelist files, edit text files. So if you have a PHP file up there already and you don't have your laptop with you or your desktop, you can actually just browse out to this file that you know where it's at on your website, log in, and begin editing files on your website and uploading files. It has its own text-based editor built in to the app, to the one file. And so I do recommend it. It works well. I've used it for a number of years. I haven't been to the website for a while. Looks like it's a real basic website. But they do have a really good documentation as far as setting it up. So how to install it, how to set it up, the parameters. There's a couple parameters you have to set up, like your username and password parameter. And that's about it. Once you set up your username and password parameter in your config file, it's in one file here. You're good to go. And you basically browse out to it once you upload it and set the settings to what you want it. You browse out to one file, and you can literally manage your file server from any location that has a web browser with one file thingy application. And it's a pretty powerful app, and it's been kept up for a number of years. And so recommend it highly. Because I know some of you, maybe it'll be at a web browser, you want to be able to just access your site to make a change somewhere. Some of you I know in the past couple weeks had a file that maybe you named incorrectly that you uploaded. You can log into this, rename the file easily, or edit a file easily, okay? Now the interface to edit is not that great, it's just a text-based, but you guys are used to using that anyway with Text Wrangler, okay? So you're gonna try it out, some of you? File thingy is what you wanna Google and play with. Do I know? Yep, yep. Yeah, I've used it and promoted it for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and the guy who developed it actually keeps it up, and so I definitely recommend it. Okay, I'm going to end with your take-home, just to make sure you know what you're doing this week. Some of you have already completed this, by the way, because it's a very simple take-home, but I want you all should be able to do the challenge on this one, because it's really easy. You're going to read the PHP arrays document up there, which goes through all the arrays, single arrays, multi-dimensional arrays, everything went over tonight. That number 2, when you click on that link, it goes to page 23. Only read the sections in there that has to do with arrays. There's a couple exercises you'll do, one on indexed and one on associate arrays. The challenge is to add different colors from what the website gives. And I think on the second exercise, it actually gives you the HTML3 website to go to, that you can browse all the known hexadecimal colors for W3C site. Once you're finished, as always, upload it, zip it to the local for me to see, and that's it. And I would like you guys this week, give me feedback next week if you would, on using the file thingy software, the application. It's totally, it'll literally take you 5 minutes to set it up. 5 minutes to set it up. Download it, read the instructions, and then you can manage your website from anywhere, because I know some of you had issues with FTP, maybe not working, maybe going too slow. This one you can actually develop it from anywhere and upload files from anywhere just with a web browser. It allows you to upload your files. So how many is going to do that this week? You're going to at least tell me you're going to do it anyway? All right, good. So play with that one. Tell me what you think of it. Any questions on your take-home? All right, if you have any questions at all, come and see me before you leave. Otherwise, we are done. Be careful on the roads if you're coming to campus tomorrow night, because it's supposed to, at 3 o'clock, start snowing, and it's supposed to be 3 to 5 inches. 3 to 5 inches. So I'm hoping for about a foot or two. I'm getting tired of the snow, just like, oh, we're going to get snow? Okay, well, half inch. Or, oh, just a flurry or two. Yeah, let's bring a blizzard, okay? Do I know?
What if we can't come to
Don't come to class. If you can't come to class, don't come to class.
I don't mind when windshield wipers don't work.
No, I've always told, and there's no faculty member I know that works here that, you'd be in trouble for staying home in inclement weather. Even though the college very rarely shuts down, there's a lot of faculty that definitely are understandable and will work with you and whatever it is. And so, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's bad, don't come on campus. Just stay home. You can make your work up, and they'll understand it. And so I have known, I've even done it before in some of my classes that you guys have had me in. In fact, we did it in here where we met online. So, there's a number of ways you can do it. So, yeah. All right. Well, good class tonight. Hopefully you learned some things. And if you have any questions, come and see me before you leave. What else? Am I leaving or staying? I'm going to be leaving here in about 10, 15 minutes. My grandson is getting ready to leave for Springfield, Missouri, and he's going to be gone. I won't be able to see him after this week. 3 years old. And I am very teary-eyed right now because I know I'm not going to be able to see him as much as I see him now. And so I'm going to go home and play with him, if you don't mind. And so, about 10 minutes, but you guys can stay. What I'll do is if you want to stay back, I'll lock the door, and then whoever the last one's out, just make sure in this room, I want to make sure if you're staying back after I leave, that there's at least 2 people in here. I don't want one person being over, especially I don't want a woman by herself in here. Okay, so make sure you guys walk out together. That would be great. But I'm going to go home and play with them. Okay. Oh, okay. So am I right? Am I doing the right one here? Okay. Okay. Da-da-da. And then do I need to do date or no? Okay. I'll let you do that. I'll let you put the right date on there.
I need help with something.
Okay.